Breaking Barriers is brought to you by the Dirt Podcast. Season 5 delivers expert insights on soil fertility and crop nutrition, plus weather and market trends to help you plan with confidence. Listen to the Dirt at nutrient-economics.com. Welcome to Breaking Barriers with R&D, your direct line to Randy Dowdy and David Hula, here to help fellow farmers unlock the potential in their fields. Are you looking to implement best practices that maximize ROI? You've come to the right place. Real value, real yield, real ROI. Breaking Barriers with R&D starts now.
Well, welcome to another episode of Breaking Barriers with R&D. It is always my pleasure, Dowdy, to be on a podcast with you. And thanks to Nutrien, we're able to continue this podcast at least for another week, buddy. So another 2. Yeah. So I see you moving around. I know you've been traveling a bunch, but where are you riding at now?
I'm in Georgia. I was in Ohio and North Dakota last week. Just might as well give you an update when I'm answering your question. So Ohio was wet but late. A lot of guys on Tuesday had just finished planting that weekend. So crops behind as far as going in the ground. It was fairly wet. There was the moisture had met. Let's put it that way. Same thing in Dakota, David. There was, it rained on us while we were in the field. I had to ask for a jacket. Believe it or not, and I'm normally the hot-natured one that was fine, but it was 48 degrees and the wind was blowing 20 mile an hour, so it was kind of it was a little cold for comfort when you're out there trying to talk and the wind's blowing. Crop looked good though. I mean, I will say this: I don't think they were behind. I think they wish they'd get a reprieve on some of the moisture. They'll want the moisture later for sure, but we were out there at Lee and Stephen's place, and both of them, I mean, we dug some roots. They needed to go a little bit deeper. I think Stephen went a little bit deeper with the planter, and he was pretty dang close on germination depth. But Lee was a touch slower, a touch shallower, but fine root hairs below the seed, attached to the seed. Even the lateral roots, all those had a lot of fine root hairs. So they had checked some boxes there. Was pleased with that portion of it. And then I went to Minneapolis with part of the South Dakota camp Monday and Tuesday. And, looked at some V4 to V6 corn. Nothing was much more mature than that anywhere in the area. Had some shallow depth planting. I know you said you were in Illinois and Iowa and Indiana and Nebraska, and they had checked that box. I guess they just save all those shallow planted acres and camps for me, but they didn't quite have it deep enough. Spacing looked pretty good. One guy had just tons of tillers. I mean, it's more tillers than I've seen anywhere at any camp stop this year. So I was pleased to see that for him. But there's still some opportunity out there as we try to teach for sure. But I'm in Georgia. It is wet. I think it rained 5 times yesterday. We've been getting rain for the last 10 days. I remember about 5 or 6 weeks ago, we were talking about it being a desert and there was wildfires everywhere.
Yep.
David, that ship has sailed, buddy. It is wet now. It has totally 100% changed overnight. When I say overnight, last few weeks, it's raining. Now we got this tropical storm brewing right off the coast. It's moving toward Alabama, central Georgia. We're going to get a bunch of rain off of it again, the way it looks the next 2 days. So I need to be spraying, and I can't get in the field. So now's when I wish I had a drone. Winds are blowing 25, 30 mile an hour today. So really ain't not good weather for nothing. I mean, stay inside and stay dry.
You had a drone and we got a aerial applicator going to be on the podcast, Dowdy. So that's like saying, buddy.
I mean, he just kicked me in the knee.
Well, I'll say this: if he wants some work in South Georgia, we can load the wagon, buddy. Because I can assure you, We've had several pilots in our area retire. David, it took me almost 3 weeks to get chemical applied versus when I wanted it applied. That's how far the ag pilots are behind down here. They are covered up normally this time of year with sweet corn and blueberries, but there's a fair amount of corn planted and then just a shortage of ag pilots. I'd hate to ask them at this point, hey, could y'all spray again for me? It'd be 2 weeks before they'd even think about it. Probably wouldn't even answer my phone call. Truth be known.
Probably not. Oh man. No.
Hey, I bet I can make a phone call for him and get him straightened up pretty quick.
Well, hey,
I know
Missouri.
a couple of boys.
I'm from Missouri. Show me, because I can assure you, there's a pile of folks down here been waiting. I mean, the ag pilots are saying they're 6,000 to 8,000 acres behind right now.
Really?
And oh yeah, I mean, all of them. And they say everybody's calling every day and bringing more stuff and just leaving it with them and say, get me when you can. But the problem is the winds have been so bad, they can't spray but 2 or 3 hours a day max, and that's part of the dilemma. The winds have been pretty brutal for the ag pilot wanting to feel like he's doing a good job. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, Dowdy, so you talk about being wet. We got Jake Drodes up in Michigan, and they're in the same boat. They're relentlessly getting dumped on with rain. They hadn't even gotten their herbicides out, and the crop is growing. So, we talk about timeliness and trying to get things done, and, the work that they did on your farm down with the university, on herbicides, getting them sprayed by a certain GDU or at least by growth stage 5. And, they're just not going to check that box. So that's been a problem. And, you talk about being wet. We're still dry up here. Somebody had to talk me off the ledge last week because I was trying to figure out why I was side dressing corn that was all curled up. But then we were able to squeeze close to a half-inch of rain. So that got that fertilizer in the ground. And, I think a lot of folks on the southeast are wrapped up side dressing. We finished cutting wheat a week ago Monday, which is typically we don't even get started by then. And the wheat crop, the best wheat we had was in the low 70s, but a lot of it was in the 60s and 50s. And we did have one field down into the 40s, partially from the frost. And then cold February, we didn't have the frost here. And then the dry spring. Barley's cutting oats right now. We got a good chance of rain this evening and tomorrow, where they're saying maybe close to an inch. No gully washer, just some light rains. So he's trying to finish up oats, so that'll be good. And I find myself planting beans, which doesn't happen very often, but just trying to help get things caught up. But you talked about the tropical depression or storm. Do we need to start thinking about rust coming up? Are y'all finding any rust down there, Dowdy?
There's been nothing reported. I was thankful to get it sprayed last Sunday. Obviously, it'd be a week into it now. There has still been nothing reported, but now all of this is blowing up, from the Delta kind of coming across to us. Normally, our rust blows up from Florida. Plots, UGA, normally when it, the extension office, all the dealers and all the seats, everybody's calling everybody. It's an opportunity for something, right? So, it's a matter of if we're going to get it, it's when. Right now, most corn in our area is probably at that. I'd say the youngest corn's probably 1,400 GDUs, if I had to guess, just post-tassel. So, some of these people are waiting to get their stuff sprayed, but it's on everybody's mind. Everybody sprays here. It's not about whether or not they're going to spray. They spray.
Yeah.
Nothing dated up on the rust has been spotted.
Good. Well, I mean, that gives me some comfort, knowing that we might not get pushed so early, because Our youngest corn is 800 GDUs. Our oldest corn is tapping that 1200 GDU mark right now, or at least irrigated wise. Crop looks decent. Tissue levels are good. We pulled some this week, and they are as good as I would expect. We've been irrigating pretty hard, and so no tillers. I mean, you mentioned seeing a bunch of tillers, and growers oftentimes say, "Hey, I got tillers. How can I keep it alive?" Don't worry about it. Just feel good that you checked the first box or the first quarter. You done things well there, and then make sure you keep on working on the crop, because get out there and side dress, and remember, I like to save a little bit from. Remember what Jeff Slusher said: save some nitrogen for late to help make some kernels long. But so, Dowdy, I know
I got a picture about 20 minutes ago, David, with a guy sending me a bunch of pictures of a lot of suckers, and in the same picture, there's brace roots coming out above ground today. And he says, man, the suckers are on fire. I said, looks like the brace roots are too.
Yeah.
So, man, people need to understand these brace roots is a stress indicator for sure. It's not necessarily a great thing. You get a crop that blows over and you get brace roots to help keep it standing up. It's a defense mechanism for sure. And when that phenomenon not took place, David, you and I know what's happening when you split a stalk. When you go to looking at that, it's pretty indicative that there's not a maximum efficiency occurring on nutrient flow for sure.
Yeah. Well, when you talk to a farmer, hey man, a good field doesn't have any brace roots above ground. We're not saying no nodal roots. We got to have the 5 sets of nodal roots, but not having brace roots above ground, that's when you have checked a lot of boxes all the way to the finish line, or at least almost to the finish line. And like you said, wind can cause it. Where the guys on the southeast have been dry, just drought can be causing it because you can't find enough moisture. But more than likely, it's usually because of disease or nutrition is where they seem to have the biggest problem. But I've taken video after video of walking through a field, and you see no roots above ground or just barely pumping up. And that's where I'm sure you were having your best corn. That's where we have a tendency to have our best corn. So
I'll tell you, you see influencers putting information out there, and I generally don't like to talk about the competition a whole lot. But there's some influencers out there that show a lot of corn, David. If nothing else, I'm going to coach them in this way. Figure out how to prevent the brace roots if you really want to make some big yields. But if nothing else, don't show them on video, because those of us that know the difference, it's hard to convince me in my mind that maximum yields being achieved when there's a lot of brace roots above ground. I just hadn't been able to duplicate that.
Yeah. Well, the best thing for me, Dowdy, is just not get on social media and not worry about it.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. So, well, Dowdy, it is my good pleasure. I know, we've had Matt Crabbe on before, and, you've had chances to talk with him, and we kind of scheduled this time for this podcast around Matt's schedule because he was trying to get some dry fertilizer spread, and now he's starting to think about moving down to Georgia. I can see oh Lord, just don't be down.
I got a request though. You need to spray my load the very first one of the day. that sound familiar?
Hey, I'm working right now. I'm working right now for you. I'm working right now. You've heard behind the scenes, right? I'm on it. I'm on it.
I hear you. Well, we appreciate your help.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'm glad to see you live in Memorex.
Yes, sir.
I know you had a touch and go moment a while back, and I'll let you decide whether or not you want to discuss that or not. But when I got the word from David, I was like, what? Oh, no. Is he okay? And obviously you are okay, and you kick it, and that's the best part about it. But
Yep. I had one cause me a little problem. You know how I guess 35 years, something finally happened. And I just draw it out. You know how it goes. But I can tell you this: I had the Lord riding with me 100%. He was flying. It wasn't me. So I'm giving him all the credit on that one.
Well, you got a great opportunity to have a great testimony.
Yes, sir.
And do not squander that opportunity to give Lord the credit. And I appreciate you doing that today. There's no question that if we're paying attention, we should know where our blessings are coming from, because it's hard to understand with our feeble minds where some of the and why it happens the way it does. So,
yeah, that's the truth. But I tell you, it happened so fast. You know, I really don't know. You're in a fight at that point, and like I said, next thing I know, we had a situation. Next thing I know, I'm on the ground sitting still. So that's kind of how it went. And like you said, it could have gone a whole lot worse. But
wow.
I appreciate you asking.
Yes, sir.
It's I promise you this: it's not something I care to do again. How about that? That's not wasn't really on my top of my list of things I want to do. I can tell you.
Yeah, not that
That's
day
right.
for
A good deal.
Yeah.
There seemed to be a good Samaritan. I mean, the video I saw where the guy had the dash cam on his vehicle, he caught it. But Matt, the thing that surprised me most, there were two vehicles in front of him that just drove right on by. And I know you weren't paying attention to none of that, but
no,
it just surprised me because it happened right there beside him.
Yep.
And that one Samaritan, he did stop, and he made comments several times. So it's good that there are people out there that care also.
Yeah, a couple of them were pretty colorful comments, David.
Yeah, a couple of them
He's
were.
like, oh, right.
He was he was on the phone call and getting straight for me when I got out of the airplane, and luckily enough I was we got the situation handled pretty quick. It was other than messing my ride up pretty good. I was very lucky, didn't have any banged up scratches, bruises, dents, nothing like that on my body. And that fella, he, like I said, he was there first on the scene. So, yep, I kudos to him 100%.
Yeah. Well, were you even sore the next day?
It would have
What was that, Dave?
Were you even sore the next day?
I wasn't. I don't know how. I really don't. I've got it padded up pretty good in there from my years of flying, with some back issues and stuff. And I think that contributed a lot to it also. But no, I mean, I don't know how to say it. Don't know how to explain it. I really don't. Like I said, you don't think about that until it's all said and done.
Yeah.
And then it's still a blur.
Well, I think there's a country song that says Jesus took the wheel. Well,
Absolutely.
And put it down, because it was we all know some pilots that have not had the same success, and
Yes.
oftentimes say that there's two types of crop dust: the good ones and those that aren't good, and they're not around very long.
Yes.
Looking for expert insights to power smarter decisions on your farm? The Dirt Podcast features industry voices diving into what matters most: soil fertility, market trends, agronomic strategies, and practical tips you can use in the field. Get the information you need to stay ahead in today's evolving ag landscape. Search The Dirt, an economic podcast, on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or YouTube, or visit nutrien-economics.com to tune in.
For somebody that's got between 2 and 3 million miles underneath them, just traveling all these years, you said it messed up your ride. I guarantee you it messed up my britches. That would have happened to me, because I've been in a couple of scenarios on a plane right after 9/11. Y'all may remember when they had the 30-minute warning going into DC. You could not get up and move around the aircraft, and we were serving the country, protecting the country, and we were there in a law enforcement capacity at the time, and we were flying into DC for other matters, but we were protecting the plane while we was on it. And we're going in there, and I got up and went to the bathroom, David, and I came back, sat down. There's a pilot sitting next to me, and he was going to DC to run the Marine Corps Marathon. So he's pretty good shape. He was sitting next to me on one side. His wife was sitting across the aisle. I didn't know they were together. I had to swap seats with them. But I'm on the plane, and when I sat down, I heard boom, and the plane immediately started shaking. And it started shaking so violently that the overhead bins were starting to fly open. And the flight attendants just totally 100% lost it. They freaked out. They didn't know what to do. The cabin started filling up with smoke. We start dropping just as fast as they can get us down. I assume they were trying to get us below 10,000 feet so that the oxygen mask wouldn't pop out and all that. But the plane's shaking so violently that, you were scared to death. Randy had church in that cabin. I can go ahead and tell you. There was people crying, squalling. I was praying. I was having the effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man that day, buddy, because we was getting down. And I looked over at the pilot, and he looked over at his wife, and he says, "I love you, baby." And I'm like, "Oh, Lord." I said, the man's telling his wife he loves her. But they finally started getting the smoke out of the plane, and he says, "We got a chance." And from there, it turned out that the blue fluid, hindsight 6 months later, after the I guess NTSB FAA investigation, the blue fluid in the toilets had been leaking through the valve on the exterior of the plane, and where they serviced the labs, and it had been leaking, and we were on an MD-88. Both engines are on the tail wing, and it had been leaking, and it formed an iceberg on the bottom of the plane, and it dislodged, and it went in the left engine, and it destroyed that left engine. And the right engine's about 6 feet as a crow flies from it. So we made it in one engine, but you could hear fire left engine, terrain, pull up, all those checks that they go through in the pre-departure. David, you talking about scary? The flight attendants took off for 6 months. The pilots were forced to fly the remainder of the leg with 2 more pilots. They forced them to get back in the seat. They said that's protocol, I guess, to help keep them from getting PTSD as bad, to get back in. That the seats that flight attendants were sitting in broke. And they hit the floor. They were a gear bolt away from that engine completely, coming off the plane. But I can't imagine what you went through, but it that's what comes back to my mind every time when we have people that have these things. I can say, I've been there to some capacity. I just wasn't under control. So I'm glad you made it and everything went as well it did.
I appreciate it, Randy. Yep. Mine happened so quick. It didn't give me a whole lot of time to think. And, it was like I said, it's not an experience I care to, go through again. I promise you. It's, I'll be okay if I don't ever do that again.
Yes, sir.
So Matt, you've been, you asked to come back on the podcast because you did some exciting things there. I couldn't make it to your little demonstration.
Yes.
So I guess I'm anxious to hear some of the results that you had.
Okay. Yeah, we did, David. What we did is we had what we call our Operation Safe Fly-In, and I held it at my operation here. And what we did is we took an airplane, helicopter, and drone. And what we do is we run them across what we call a string line, or for spray drift pattern testing. We want to see what kind of drift we're getting. We want to see what kind of droplet spectrum, droplet size we're getting, kind of swath width, effective swath we're getting. So therefore you don't see a lot of, with effective swath, you don't see streaks, you don't see misapplications, things like that. We did that for about 3 days here. What I did is I got my national organization involved. And then I had two other operators come in also, one with the helicopter and another one with a T-50 drone. We used a Bell 206 for the helicopter. We used my air tractor for the fixed wing aircraft, and we used a T-50 for the drone. So we wanted something, that is a common, like a drone is common out there, and the aircraft that are most commonly used in aerial application industry.
Next did a trial, and they've done it for a couple years, saying that the airplane to a drone, that the drone was given better control. Well, I struggle with that. And, you and I talked about that. So I think this is what caused you to do your little trial. So, I heard you got a helicopter, you got the drone and your airplane. So now what was the procedure that you did and what were the results?
What we did is we took each of the aircraft or the each piece of equipment, ran them on the parameters what we normally run them on a daily basis. What we found were, because we've been running the aircraft over string line every year, so we pretty much know what the fixed wing was doing. The helicopter came in, they had run over a string line about 10 years ago. They weren't 100% sure what they were doing, but they proved that what they were running, droplet spectrum, and their swath was actually on target for what they had been from 10 years ago. They hadn't done a whole lot of changing. Now, when we got to the drone, because of all the marketing that we see with them claiming 30 foot, 40 foot, all that good stuff, droplet spectrum, things of that nature, that's what I wanted to look at that closely, because I'm thinking of adding one for smaller and more congested areas in my operation. What we came up with was, with the T-50, we set it up just like they set it up just like they normally spray. What we got out of it was an effective 22-foot swath. And what we got, we set it on the coarsest droplet that we could get on the setting on the T-50. And the best droplet that we could get with that was a fine droplet. Not a medium, not a coarse, but a fine. And that was the best that we could get out of that drone with that setup. So one reason I wanted to do it was, number one, I'm looking at it. So I want to know what effectively we can do to do a good job, because if I can't do a good job, then I'm not interested in the equipment. Like I said, the companies are marketing them. I see 30 foot, 25 foot, 40 foot. I don't see it. I don't see how something that small is throwing an effective swath that far. When you take a helicopter who has a 35, 40 foot rotor span, and that's throwing 60, that's more relevant and more statistically in line with the way it ought to be in an aircraft with a 60-foot wingspan throwing at 75 and 80 foot. So, but you take a drone that's got a 9-foot and throwing at 30 foot, doesn't equate in our world. Now, the other part of that is, I understand that people are just buying drones and going into the aerial application business. The other part of that is, in our industry, to become an aerial applicator in a lot of states, you have to be an apprentice for 2-3 years. And that means you have to work underneath someone for the simple reason you don't know what you're doing. Aerial application is just like being an electrician, a plumber. I mean, you wouldn't hire an electrician to come wire your home that didn't have a license and wasn't insured, because guess what? You're going to have some problems. And we're seeing a lot of that now, unfortunately, in the drone industry, because a lot of guys are just getting into this and they're not being taught correctly, and they don't understand aerial application. Because rest assured, a drone is nothing but an aerial platform, which falls under aerial application. It's a miniature helicopter is all it is, that's autonomous. That's it. So these are kind of the things that we're looking at because, again, like I said, there's a lot of information being passed on the websites and the social media that just doesn't seem to be adding up. And over the last 2 years, since drones have become more active in applications and, with fungicides, herbicides, you see a lot more streaking of fields because of wide swathing. Each aerial platform has what they call an effective swath, and that's where it's actually getting a uniform coverage equally across the field. It's not the entire swath, but it's the effective swath. So when doing this test with our Operation Safe, we wanted to compare all three platforms and get a good reading of what was actually being produced out of each one of the platforms, so the growers understand what needs to be done, and if they have an issue, they can understand why.
Now, I have a question. Is there a different nozzle that they could maybe change to get that coarse droplet size if it was coveted, or is it just not possible on that swath path or that swath width?
Well, and let's take that. That's a good question, Randy. In most cases, as you go up on gallonage per gallon per acre, normally your swath width decreases in normal cases because you're going to a bigger droplet, and it's not going to travel. I am not educated enough on a drone to tell you, do they have different nozzle configurations? On this T50, the fellows that came in here that worked that one, they did not. I did see a demonstration of a T50 and a T100, and the fellow doing the demonstration for me had been operating drones for 3 to 4 years, and he said the way that they control the GPA was with speed and not changing nozzle configurations. So I don't, when you, with a helicopter, I'm not an expert on anything, but I've flown a lot of helicopters and I've flown a lot of airplanes. As you slow down and you start getting air and wind movement that gets into your spray pattern, that starts affecting your droplet spectrum. You start running into wind shear, shearing the droplets, making them smaller, creating more fines per se. Faster you go, you can tell you get more fines because you're getting more shear. More down pressure with a helicopter, same operation. Like for doing forestry work, we use a totally different nozzle than we do with the rotor wing than you do doing ag work, for the simple reason you're trying to control the droplet spectrum because it's herbicide work. When you're doing like a site prep for a forestry block, that stuff will keep, some of those products will keep vegetation from coming back strong for a year or two. And you definitely you want to control that. So you do that by bigger droplets, lower speeds, holding it to a tighter pattern. But you also don't want to go too slow where you see the rotor wash affecting the spray pattern. If you take a look at a lot of the drone footages you see on social media, the spray is going everywhere. It doesn't look like it has hardly any control because they're saying they want the downwash. That's not necessarily true because that's affecting your swath, it's affecting your droplet spectrum, and it's also affecting where your spray pattern is going. Wind, if you're flying in any kind of wind whatsoever, as well as I know, logically speaking, a heavier droplet is going to be less susceptible to wind. Smaller droplets are more susceptible to wind. So you have more movement, and you have to understand that. Aerial application is an art form, and it takes years to master it. And unfortunately, sometimes it costs a lot of money to fix a mistake that you may make doing that. But the reality of it is a profession, and it should be treated as a highly skilled profession, as aerial application. I'm not saying that people that have drones aren't that way, but there's a lot of people that have just bought a drone and have just gone to work with it and don't really understand what aerial application is. And we're starting to see that a lot with a lot of the streaking that you see out here, a lot of the misapplications. The next part of it is a lot of these guys are, I'm seeing with the drones, are using very low gallonage rates. You have to look at the labels also. The labels will dictate what your gallon per acre are, and there it's written. And in many states, and Virginia, where I am, is one of them, label is law. And if you break the label, then that's an illegal application, let's call it. So a lot of things have to be taken into consideration, and that's why I'm doing my due diligence before I jump into the drone world 100%, because I've been in it so long. I know what can happen, and as the old saying goes, you don't have a problem until you do have a problem. But you want to make sure that you're 100% legal and make sure that you're doing everything, because a lot of the labels now are requiring medium droplets, coarse droplets. It's specified on the labels. So it's becoming, a little more challenging than what it used to be of the olden days.
So Matt, when y'all were doing the trial and you had the drone operators and the helicopter, was there any wind, and did you notice how far the drift was with those smaller droplets from the drone, as opposed to the your fixed wing and then the rotor wing?
Yes, David, there wasn't a whole lot of wind those 2 days that we tested the drone. But you can definitely tell the difference of the smaller. A fine droplet is going to travel further. It's just how it is. It's a helicopter and airplane. The way because of what we've had over the years, we can produce extremely fine, ultra low. I mean, matter of fact, when I do mosquito work, it is extremely fine, and you want it to drift. But when we're doing herbicide, I want bigger droplets. I want it to go to the ground quickly. I do not want any movement. So logically speaking, I can take a helicopter, I can take an airplane, I can set them up identical to do exactly what a drone's doing. We can go at as low as, with mosquito work, I'm putting out 0.75 ounces per acre of product, period. It's all the same. Aerial application is aerial application. That's the one thing that is getting confused out here, that I see with social media. It's you have to be able to set up according to the job. And that's like with you, when I run 2 gallon or I run 5 gallon, you can tell a large difference, between the droplet spectrum.
So after you did the trial, have you placed an order for a drone?
No, I haven't yet. I think what I'm gonna have to do with that drone is, I think it has its place. I do. And like I said, congested areas for me, but I want to see some more. I want to see some more advancements, and whether I do that myself or not, whether we do it. We've done a lot of testing over the years, a lot of different nozzles, different techniques, different pressure, different things, just, what we do. But I'm considering, we just haven't, I'm working with a drone operator, but I have not purchased a drone as of yet.
When you were flying and doing this trial, were you in a crop, or were you just doing stuff?
This was over top of cover crop when we did it. It was it was just cover crop that we had desiccated. So it wasn't a cornfield trial. It wasn't a soybean trial or a wheat trial. It was just kind of right there. We had just killed the cover crop.
Matt, when you first started flying for us and you were doing the kryptonite, that product has a glitter to it. And
yeah.
I know Barlow I wanted Barley to go out and check to make sure we were getting good coverage. And I think he made a comment to me. Well, tell the boy to at least let it settle, float down to the ground or come in before he goes out in the field. But with that, with what you were doing at that gallon rate, we were 2 leaves below the ear, which that is the goal. You know, we don't need to hit, some of these products don't need to hit the, we're trying to protect the crop, and you know, they're expensive products. So going on the ground is just wasting dollars. So you clearly know what you're doing, and the droplet size, and you know, we all see you put that puff of smoke to know which way the wind's blowing. So making that transition would be kind of difficult when you got that many years of history and experience.
Yeah, it would be, David. And, you know, it's like I said, the only reason I'm looking at it is for some of my growers that are where the city is infringing on them pretty heavy. And, you know, and everyone in the United States is facing that issue, you know, urban sprawl, as they call it. And, you know, it's how it is. The drone is a whole lot cheaper to operate than a Bell 206. I promise you.
Well,
whenever we have you flying in the area, and I know we're getting phone calls from neighbors, I just usually tell them just to enjoy the show. Don't worry about it.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
But that doesn't always work.
No, it doesn't always work. It doesn't. Randy, did you have a question?
yeah. You know, I'm interested in figuring out at some point, like on a corn crop, you know, how deep in the canopy we can actually get it with a drone. I've done the little paper strips out here before myself, and you know, we get asked the question all the time. And Matt, I really appreciate the fact that you're giving us some good information to have people to talk about, or have us to talk about, and be able to give some information back to our growers. But there's a pile of folks that's bought drones within Total Acre, or that hire drones. And, you know, I want to be able to tell them how deep in the canopy you could expect it to go. It's one thing to not be able to go 25 feet and their swath path's 30 feet, or they can only go 15 feet effectively, you know. So one caution I get from today is swath paths must be very conservative, and then droplet size, obviously that. But the next piece of it is how deep and what kind of penetration can they get, say, in a corn crop. That would be the next piece of it. Could they get that kind of depth at the same gallonage, you know, as an area applicator, traditional area applicator?
Yeah. Randy, I don't know. You know, it's without looking at it really hard. One thing, and I'll take my airplane and I'll use that for an example. What my airplane is doing is producing a massive amount of down pressure. If you figure, and this is kind of a little bit of physics we're talking, let's just take one of the aircraft I have, let's say 6,000 pounds empty weight. All right. Now I put a load on of 600 gallons. So now I'm looking at close to, with some of these micronutrients and stuff, I'm looking at another, you know, 5,000-6,000 pounds. I'm looking at let's just call it 10,000 pounds going across the field at 150 miles an hour. Now that's creating a lot of down pressure because it's creating a lot of lift. In aviation world, we call that wake turbulence. If you've ever been flying behind the commercial airliners like you talking about the other day, if a small airplane lands behind a jet airliner, the tower will tell them caution wake turbulence, because the aircraft is producing so much downforce that it's producing a vortice roll is what it amounts to. Helicopters are very similar. Helicopters, when they're going through the air, everybody thinks that they're pushing down. It's not. It's a sling wing. It's moving through the air. The rotors are keeping it in the air because it's moving forward. Now, it can stop, but there's in that down pressure, but then you're getting a major distortion of the spray pattern. As you can see with a drone, when a drone goes across the field, you see the spray pattern. When it gets to the end and it stops, look at the distortion in the pattern. And you're not getting an even flow at that point. And that's what, in our world, in my world, at least as an aerial applicator, I want even coverage throughout the field. That's my goal. And that's what we try to do. That way the product is not bunching up on one end, or you're not seeing streaking. You're not seeing streaks in the field, which has become a more common sight over the last couple of years. So those are the kind of things. Now, depth-wise, if you sit there and take a fan and put a mist in front of it and blow it through corn, you're going to get coverage. There's no doubt. But if you're going across a field at the speed that you're supposed to be applying it at with any of these platforms we're talking about, each one of them are going to do differently. That's just how it is. It's just down weight, speed, and downforce is what gets droplet spectrum to the bottom, like what David's talking about on my end. The key to it is you got to have a uniform droplet spectrum. That way you're ensuring you're getting the correct amount of product to the plant.
Man, I hope people are listening to the podcast, because pollination window's coming. And that's generally where the mass volumes that use aerial applicators, there's no doubt about it. There's going to be a lot of work that's going to happen in the next 6-8 weeks.
Yes,
a
sir.
lot.
Yep.
And with a farmer, ignorance is bliss. They don't worry about what they don't know. And that's part of the problem. But I can tell you that, one thing that myself and David has always tried to tell the farmers is learning to ask the right questions. And, if nothing else from today's, learning session for me, especially, is that I know now how to ask better questions. And that's what we need farmers to do, because almost all these applications, as David talks about, you're going to spend $20 to $40 an acre or more with these applications, and them being done correctly is, that level of acceptance varies from applicator to applicator, but from farmer to farmer. But in this scenario, a lot of farmers wouldn't know how to ask the right question. So I think that, if Rhonda's listening today on AgWeb, or that writes articles for AgWeb, I think that if nothing else, Rhonda maybe needs to focus on some of the questions that we've raised today, so that farmers can do a better job of asking the right questions going into this application season. Because at the end of the day, there was a lot of people last year that dealt with tar spot and gray leaf spot and southern rust that had never had major problems, and had combinations of all of them. And you can't afford to mess this up with the farm economy the way it is. So coverage is key. That's one thing I tell everybody every time they ask about fungicides, they ask about which products are the best. I say there's a lot of products out there to work, but coverage is key. And you've said a mouthful today for sure. So we do appreciate you coming on and giving us some better things to think about and consider. I get it. I know you're an aerial applicator first, and these other things that may have a place down the road, but you're going to defend what you understand and what you know, and as you should. And I think if nothing else, people can ask the right questions. So thank you for coming on today. We do appreciate that.
Hey man, I love being on here with you guys. I appreciate it too. I do. It's we're all, it's like I said before, it's a team effort, and we're all on the same team, and we're trying to make it all happen. My job is to make you shine. So that's what we are. That's what I strive to do. That's why I spend the money that I spend and doing this testing and trying to be as the best we can be. So,
well, I think when you spray David's field next, you need to go like to 120-foot swaths. I think that you're not doing yourself justice. Just think how much faster you could spray that field of his if you'd go to 120-foot swaths. It's effective spraying, David. I mean, so I'm coaching him up to go to 120-foot swaths on your farm. so that you can, I mean, just imagine how much higher yields you might get.
Andy, I like the way you think. I'm not sure David's gonna feel that way. Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, when he talks about team, man, it's full board, Dowdy. That's all. All right.
Yeah.
Well, as always. So, well, Matt, we do appreciate it, and Dowdy, it's my good pleasure to always be on the podcast with you. I know I'm getting a little bit of wind here, and it's probably blowing my signal around. So, as always, we also appreciate Nutrient being a sponsor for this episode. And Matt, I want you to be safe, and we'll be calling you soon. And don't head to Georgia quite yet.
Hey, tell Randy, I've got one that's getting ready to call you. You'll have it done probably by tomorrow, so you'll be all right. Okay.
Good deal. I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Hey, buddy,
Thanks,
I'm looking out for you.
I appreciate that. Good deal. Well, thank you both. I appreciate the time together, and everybody be safe out there, and think about some of the things we talked about today. It can make the difference on your farm for sure.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon for another new episode of Breaking Barriers with R&D. Be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, all episodes are available on Farm Journal TV and anywhere podcasts are found.